they will say, this person, there is a confidence that is there.
Hello, you got me
But there is
doing a
also
little folding, but I'm
an
doing readings
appreciation
tonight and
of
listening
others
to
that
some
is there.
motivation
That's
about
the
a
way that it will
beautiful
play. In other words,
800.
you saw what happened and you felt what happened with our principal friend as he is loving, you see. And that's what they'll feel about you. And there will always be those not on the vibe of that who will not verbalize their appreciation of that because they can't. So you can't let someone who doesn't get it bother you. That's why your two questions, as they dovetail together, are so important. What would it be like if they all did it? Well, it'd be really nice. But we don't want you to wish for that because they're not all going to get it. And it has to be all right with you that they don't all get it. But you have to want it, not so that they'll get it. You have to want it so that you'll get it. But then, when you want it so that you'll get it, more of them will get it. But you can't want them to get it, and that's why you want to get it. That's what messes it up. That's where it starts to go through. When you do it because you need it, now you're not doing it. But when you do it because it's natural to you and because it's what your true grid is, and you click into that and you find that worthy, self-confident feeling, then everything just turns out good for you. And people will watch you. Some of them will be jealous. They're not in the vortex, but they will be because everything's going your way. Some of them will be attracted to you and they'll want to know what you know. And when they are, you can tell them what you know. I figured it out. I finally figured it out. It's how I feel. And I can control how I feel. And as long as I'm controlling how I feel, then it's like there's this grid that fills in with good stuff. And look at all the good stuff that filled in for me because I feel good. And they'll say, well, I don't feel good. And say, yeah, that's why good stuff's not filling in for you. Try it. It's easy. Try it. It's easy. It's what we want to say to all of you. And it's easier for you to find the ease of it than it is somebody who hasn't been trying for a longer period of time. Right. The little ones are really easy. The little ones are really easy.
Is that why one of the biggest criticisms I've had, pointed towards me is that I'm emotionally, not vulnerable, or, I don't necessarily connect on an emotional level with someone else because they're not there yet.
You're not willing to go specific in a direction that doesn't feel good to you.
Right.
That's what they're trying to describe to you. Isn't it what talk to me, you say, talk to me. You need to talk to me about this thing that is bothering me. You need to talk to me about this thing that's bothering me. And unless I can get it to bother you as much as it bothers me, you're not there for me. You're emotionally unavailable to me.
Right.
And you want to say, you got that right. I intend to remain emotionally unavailable to you unless you are specifically, ecstatically, joyously creating. Then I'll join you completely.
And it's just like you were saying with the gentleman before me, how if they don't get that yet, you have to appreciate them for where they are in their process, right?
Love them where they are. Just love them where they are because they are where they are. And no matter where they'd like to be, they are where they are. And if you can love them where they are, then your grid doesn't get messed up. But if you let where they are and not being able to love where they are be your experience, now you're messing up your own grid. Isn't it interesting? You got to love them where they are in order for your grid to work for you. Go figure.
That's all I needed to hear. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Doesn't get any better than that.
I also have problem with unworthiness and insecurity inside myself. This wasn't a problem before, like when I was younger. I used to be I didn't care what other people think, but slowly what happened was other people, what they thought, and the way I looked around, it just kind of made me feel insecure, and I feel kind of powerless because it feels like I've been born with things that I can't change, like what I've inherited from my parents. So I have this desire to do well in sports, but I have this belief that, genetic-wise, I don't have the ability, even though I do well at it, but feels I can't take it to another level, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's certain that you cannot take anything to an expansive, fantastic level if at the basis of that which you are is a constant awareness of unworthiness. I think it's a wonderful thing that you acknowledge that you are feeling sort of unworthy. We want to talk about what that is and why, and more important, what to do about it. So there's a lot we want to say to you, so just relax, and we're going to sort of unravel this in a way that you can really hear it. You said some really interesting things. First of all, you've come to a sort of conclusion that you must feel, or that you do feel, unworthy. And you've come to that conclusion based upon the way things are sort of turning out. Doing okay, but not as dramatically okay as you want. You also said something that was interesting and very common. In fact, almost everyone experiences it to some degree. And that is, in the beginning of your experience, you didn't feel that way. You felt more invincible, more sure-footed, like you could do anything. But then that feeling of confidence eroded over time. And the reason that it eroded over time is for a very simple reason. We're going to lay this out for you in a way that you will really see it. It's because you and almost everybody else you know, they're all doing it to some degree. You let what others were thinking about you and what they reflected back to you, you let that become your opinion, not realizing that they're not really holding you as any constant, steady object of attention. In other words, it's not their job to hold you. It's not their job to buoy you. It is the job of Source. It is the job of your inner being, and it is happening. But if you're looking for that love in all the wrong places, you're not going to find it. And it's a very common thing to look to those that you are living with for their appreciation and their approval, when what you're really wanting to do is feel your way into that alignment from the Source within you, who is always there, ready to cheer with you, ready to acknowledge the value of that which you are. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
So
it's just hard though, because everywhere you look, it sort of it affirms the unworthiness, if you know what I mean. If you turn on the TV, I don't know, it's sort of like I'm stuck with a vibration that I can't change. I try really hard to change it as well. But like I try finding better thoughts. But what happens is I just go straight back to where I started off with.
Well, you have to do it a little bit at a time. And you're right. We've talked about this quite a bit, and it certainly applies here, that most people are offering the majority of their vibration, which equals their point of attraction, based upon what they are observing. So when you say, everywhere I look, so what happens is,
We're going
you
like
look a
this.
certain way, that's the
Have another
vibration that you're
midnight
offering.
snack.
Because that's the vibration that you're offering, that's what comes back to you. As that comes back to you, it confirms the feeling that you had, which causes you to offer the vibration more. And then, so in the example that we gave about Esther with the car hitting her car, same sort of thing. She's been feeling off her game. She's been feeling less strong and less secure than she has felt over time. She's been feeling sort of vulnerable. That feeling of vulnerability causes her to say things that are not things that she would normally say, caused her to rendezvous with a near accident, which she normally wouldn't rendezvous with, but given this new vibration, so here it comes. Then she commented about what a close call it was, and even though nothing happened at that intersection, under the bridge, entering the freeway, nothing happened, she found the words that said, if that guy who did that thing that he shouldn't have been doing had hit that other car, then likely we would have been involved in something, even though we were innocent. So now here she is. She was feeling it. Now there's evidence. Now she's commenting on the evidence. Now she's feeling it more. Now she parks her car innocently in a parking lot, and while she's in the grocery store, someone hits her car. So now, see what's going on. So she was feeling that way. The manifestation confirmed how she was feeling. Now she comes out, and here is something she really doesn't want. There's a girl crying, her father is there, he's enraged, the car is smashed into her car. Now you're observing something more. Now you're observing it. Now you're having a knee-jerk response to it. In other words, it's like letting what is control how you feel. But the question is, when did it start? In other words, when did this chain that led to that start? And the bigger question that we're really wanting you to hear is,
Thank you. Long-time listener, first-time talker. I've been at this for about 3 years, and I go through a lot of philosophical circles, all that stuff. And I was going to go through some success stories, but we'll see if we have time for that. The other guy, I thought he was going to get into something about non-duality, which is something that I wanted to talk about, to get Abraham's perspective on the idea of, like a lot of Eastern teachers talk about non-duality. I'm starting to get the idea that may be what Abraham talks about as the idea of the non-physical, which is also the physical, the oneness between the two. But there seems to be that all-encompassing sense of I amness, of the beingness of. That's the only thing you can say with absolute certainty as a consciousness. At least from here, there seems to be an I am. And other than that, I want to see how that relates to non-physical or Abraham's perspective.
well, there certainly is duality in everything, because
It appears.
in everything, well, let's talk about it. Of course, words are interesting, aren't they? Because
Yes.
different people mean different things by them. But what we mean in this
Hello.
sense, that in
Still
every
standing.
particle of everything, there is wanted and the absence of it, and
How are
whatever is
you?
in between. And so that's sort of like the ultimate duality, in that contrast just provides that. It's necessary in order to get focus. It's necessary to know what you do want, to be able to know what you don't want. The thing that is interesting, humans have manufactured this ultimate duality of good
Awesome.
and evil.
Where you
because
from?
They've not been good at mastering their alignment. And when they stand in discord,
I'm great. I'm over here
to that
doing the
stream
late
of
night
well-being,
snack
the disallowance,
Listening
the
to some
personal
motivation
disallowance
from
of
Abraham
that
Hicks. And,
powerful energy
okay,
leads them
Gainesville, Florida.
in such a
Awesome. I've
feeling
been
of
there
void.
before.
And if they practice it long enough to get momentum, that then their natural assumption is there must be some assertion of this.
Once.
It's
I've been
really
there once.
the point of this entire conversation that we're having with all of you. Because until you understand about law of attraction and what role you play in what comes to you, it feels that there is an outside assertion that is doing things to you. It is the strongest discomfort that people have when they come to us.
Oh, it's
They
been
say,
cold here too.
I
It's
want to
just
believe that I
kind
create
of like
my own
warming up
reality,
a little.
but I do not believe that I do, because I would not have created
Yesterday it
that
got chilly,
if
and
I
then
had
today
the
it was a
choice.
little more
And
better.
we say, there are so many things you
I
have to
enjoyed some
understand.
barbecue.
You're creating not with your words,
On
you're
the grill.
creating with your vibrational countenance. And your vibration is so much more than you know that it is. There are intentions that you set forth. One of the most interesting things as we are playing with our physical friends is that they sift through contrast and they desire things that they don't stay up to speed
I'm
with.
listening to
And
the
then they sift
Master
through contrast and they
Manifester
desire things that they don't stay up to
from
speed
Abraham
with. And they
Hicks. I don't
sift
know
through
if you ever
contrast
heard of
and they
her.
desire things that they don't stay up to speed with. So they don't practice the vibration of their desire. And then sometimes
We have to
at a weak,
practice the
unfocused
vibrations
moment,
of
when
our
they're not
desires.
continuing to beat the drum of the unwanted, which is what's holding them away from what they want, they find themselves influenced by some situation or some person into alignment where they allow some of what they want to come in. And then they don't even recognize it because they haven't practiced it enough to know what it would feel like. It's sort of like they can't see
Oh,
it
you should
because
Google her.
they haven't
She's a very
practiced knowing what it
inspiring
feels like to
person.
be there. Where when you
Abraham
become
Hicks, she
deliberate
is
in your
awesome.
creation, when
Very
you know
inspirational.
what you're reaching for,
She'll
and
get you
you are
through.
sensitive to the vibrational gap
Reminds you that who
between
you are
where you are
if
standing
you
and what
even
you're reaching
forget.
for, and you soothe that gap, you close that gap, you come consistently into alignment with it, then you don't miss those subtle nuances as the universe is yielding to you in precision to what you're asking for.
And I feel like that's when I took to this Abraham stuff, I dove into it with both feet
Yes.
and buried
I'm
myself
on
in
here
it.
for a little bit,
I became a
answering
master
questions.
manifester. Now it's
Pulling
more a problem of
cards just for a
demanifesting the
little
crap
bit.
I already manifested. I mean, it's insane. Well, if we can go into some of the success stories, I think it'd be fun for some of the people that maybe haven't been doing this so long. Like when I first started, I thought, oh, it'd be fun. You know, I was single at the time, and so was my best friend and
Thank
my
you,
ex-wife, and
thank
we
you.
were like, oh, this is
You have a
interesting.
question?
It's the law of attraction
I
stuff. Let's try
appreciate
it.
that you
So we made this to what
subscribe.
we wanted and
Every
looked at it every
subscribe
day
is
and
a
all that. And within
blessing.
2 weeks, all three of us had found a perfect mate. We're all still with them 3 years later. I mean, and then we started thinking, wow, this is really interesting. And I always love the success stories. That's why I like to share them a little bit. That was some of my favorite things about the Abraham
Oh,
material
thank you.
was
Such a
reading,
sweet
your
person.
Esther and Jerry's stories, and then the people that would sit in the
Just
chair.
building
And I
my
remember
channel
one guy
and
sat in the
doing
chair,
readings and
and he was telling this
spreading
success story
love,
that
you know. That's
uh,
what
he said, I want to
I
get
love
checks in the
about
mail.
this community.
To me, that sounded like the
A
stupidest
lot
thing
of
in the
people
world. Why
I've
would
been
somebody
meeting
mail
on
you
here
a
have
check
been
for no
awesome
reason?
spirit.
And he said it worked for him. And I was like, okay, you know what? I have no resistance to that. That sounds like fun. So, okay, whatever. Within a couple weeks, I get a check in the mail for $3.60.
You have any
Some class
question
action
I would love
lawsuit
to
that I did not know I
answer.
was a part
We'll
of.
see what the
I'm like,
cards say.
okay, this is fun. All right. So then a couple of weeks later, I get a
See
check
what
for
the spirit guides and
$360
the
in the
angels
mail.
tell us.
Some refund from some
They're
power
always
company where I
on
lived
point.
like 10 years ago. Okay, this is fun. So then a couple of weeks later, I get a check for $3,600 in the mail from eBay.
Okay, you're Aries.
Another
Well, good
class action
thing you
lawsuit
just
thing.
came
I'm like,
into the
okay,
full
this is
moon
cool.
of Aries. We just
Then
got into the
I'm
full
waiting for
moon
my
of Aries.
$36,000 check, and
Yes.
what happened instead was
My son is an Aries
had
too,
an inspiration
so
to start
I
buying condos and
know
I bought a bunch of cheap condos.
how
and
you guys
made a lot more
are.
than
Y'all very
$36,000. Actually, I did
outspoken
want to
and
brag a little bit.
research
As
a
of about
lot
2 weeks
and
ago,
stuff,
I'm a
so.
millionaire.
Let me see what your question was.
It's all
April
law
the
of attraction,
16th,
and
so
it's
it's
just
coming up. Well,
being
happy
loose with it,
birthday
just having
if I,
fun with it. It's
don't
just,
happen to
and it's
talk
just
to you on your
one thing after the
birthday.
other. And so
Let me
that
look back
stuff,
at your
I feel like I got
question
nailed. It's a
really
blast. I mean,
fast.
everything from when my dad died, I had no resistance to it. He told me he died. I was in
Okay.
Florida, he was in Louisiana.
Let's see
I
what the
woke
cards
up
say.
and he's standing next to me in my bed, about as far away as you are now. He looked about 30 years younger. He looked great. And I just said, I looked at him and he was really excited to see me. And I said, this is the last time I'm going to see you, isn't it? And he said, yeah.
I pulled the 10 of
I gave him a
coins.
big hug, said
The
goodbye.
the 10 of
and
coins. I
So
said
I
the
was,
10
I
of
had my daughter
cards.
with me at the time. I said,
The 10 of
Grandpa Joe
coins.
died. She's like, how do you know? I'm like, I just saw him.
The 10 of
Told my
coins.
girlfriend, I knew. And then
I sense
I
that
didn't hear
somebody's
about it
thinking
until like 8
about
hours
you.
later.
You
We
see
had
her
no
as a
idea that he
man
was
visible
close to
inside
dying,
of the,
and found out later
a
he died. And
family.
I see him now more than I
Somebody's
saw him
thinking
when he was
about
alive.
you.
And
They
it's
even
always
want to
pleasant.
have a
And
family
I
too
recognize that
with
you're
the
never
right
going to see
person.
somebody that's
So I can
dead
see
if you're in the midst of
um,
sorrow or grief or anything like that. I only saw him when I was in a
coming
good, happy
together
mood.
with someone
I'd
and
go to
building a
sleep, have a
family.
dream, and
I don't know if
he'd
you
tell me
already
something
have
that
a
I couldn't have
family,
known
but
in
it's
real life.
showing
I'd
that
verify
you
it with my
and this
stepmother, and it would be
person
real. I mean,
is
stuff
going to be
would blow your
building a
mind.
family
It's a
together.
blast.
So
I've
that's
having
good
so much fun with this
news, you
stuff.
know. Somebody
But
got to be thinking about
it
you,
leaves
wanting
me
to feel,
time to think about the
and
things
thinking
like I
about
was
feeling,
talking about,
you
like
know,
non-duality and
fulfilling a future
the
family
relationship
with you.
between consciousness and source, and consciousness
Oh,
and
okay.
all that is. And
That's wisdom,
it
God.
seems like you can break
You're
reality
gaining more
down
wisdom.
to the trio of perceiver,
Yes.
perception, the perceived,
I see
and I
a
don't
guy in the
understand
picture that's
where
been thinking about
source
you.
and non-physical
And
fits into
possibly
that. It
they're
seems like
gonna
there's nothing
wanna
else. There's
definitely
there's
build
a
a
perception.
family
There appears to be a
future
centralized
wise.
focus right here in me,
Hold on one
centralized out
second,
behind my
I'm sorry.
eyeballs, and then out there is all of you that I can't even prove really exist. I mean, other than the fact that I perceive you, and I don't understand how non-physical.
I'm going to
fits
see what the
into
book
that,
says for more
that
insight on
I-am-ness,
this, but I do
the
see a
one
male, as you
consciousness
can
that
see
appears.
in the picture.
There are
And a
number of
kid,
things
if you're
that
thinking
you
about
touched
having
on that we
kids
want
and
to
a dog,
elaborate
if
on
you like
more.
dogs.
And
That's
the
a good
first is
future
we want to talk
um,
about this
And it's successful,
demanifestation that you were
too.
talking about.
Not going to be
Because
worrying about income.
you'll reach
You
the
guys
just
got a
briefly,
lot of
you'll reach
abundance
the place
around
that,
you too.
first of all,
So
we're not trying to talk any
you're
of you
going to be
out
having
of
a
any of the
great
things that you want to
partnership
Manifestation is a wonderful
ahead
thing.
in your future.
It is the furthest edge of this vibrational alignment that you are accomplishing.
Wow,
And it
okay.
is
So
evidence of alignment.
maybe it's going to be a
Evidence of
boy
things
with
wanted
this
and
future
unwanted. And
partner.
so it's a wonderful tool
This
in
is a
helping
little
you
boy
to tune
right here.
yourself. But the whole purpose of tuning
So
yourself
you may be
is
adding
for
to
the
the
emotional
girly
feeling that it
pack.
brings
How
you.
old are your
In other
girls?
words, the ultimate manifestation is control of the way you feel. And so these things that are coming to you are all
It's
nuggets.
old news. It's old thought. It's,
Yes, this
but that
card
moment,
is
that
surrounding
moment of that
peacefulness,
joy,
a time to be secure in
feel
your
that
home
that's-
and
but the source
surroundings.
of that, I think, is
But
A
you'll
time
reach
of
the place
financial and
where
economic
as the
stability is on the
manifestations
way.
become less
A
and
time
less
for happiness
significant,
that
what
surrounds
will
a
become more and more
family.
significant is
So
I
yes.
can focus a thought and I can become more and more
Oh,
detailed in
awesome.
the
So
thought,
they're
and I can
still
increase
full
the
of
momentum of the thought, or I can
excitement
decrease the
and
momentum of the
joy.
thought,
They're not
and I
worrying
can
about what's going on in the
determine
world. They're
and
in their own little
control the
creative
rendezvous.
minds.
In
How
other words,
awesome is
it's the
that?
feeling of the hands in the clay
Yes,
that
you're going
all
to be
this is about.
building a
And
family,
manifestations are a wonderful
and
part
somebody's
of it, but
going
you're
to be
right.
coming
In
in
time, the
successful. So
manifestations become less and
be
less
on the
important.
lookout because
What
there is
happens is,
love and there
once you
is somebody
accomplish
thinking
a
about you and they're
consistent
thinking about possibly building a family. I
awakening
think they
and
like the way
staying on
you
that
are as a
pipeline
mother
disc, so that
already.
you've really got
And
control of the way you begin the day and the way
they've
you
been
begin to
peeping
move through
in
the
on
day.
you a
The
little
first
more than you
indication
think.
that you've really got that going on the way you
They've
want
been
it
watching,
is that the emotion
vibing to
that
you a
comes
lot.
to you is
So
like
I
the
do
first
see a future with
manifestation. And
someone
what could
that is
be
successful, and y'all
more
will be successful at building a happy
manifestation-like
family
than
together.
something visceral right in your
So
body,
that's
the way
good
you
news.
feel. And so that's the first thing that comes. Now, of course, the feeling comes in response to the thought. So to be really accurate, we have to say to you, the thought which accomplished the alignment came first. But
She
once
just said
you've
the
got
feeling
that going
comes
on,
with the
then
thought.
the emotions that
So
follow
if you
are your
feel
next awareness
what you
of
want and you
manifestation. The next thing
think
that
it,
happens
it
is
manifests.
steady streams
You
of thought
just
begin
can't
to
think,
flood
you
into
can't
your
doubt
mind
it.
from your past, from
Hey
future
Joanne, how
experiences
you
even. You
doing?
begin to
How
rendezvous
was
with your
your
own
night,
good
day
ideas. And along with
so
that
far?
comes sensations of clarity. Now, clarity feels more like a thinking experience, and yet clarity
Welcome
really is
back.
an emotional experience. It feels so good to be clear-minded.
Yes,
And
of
when you
course.
juxtaposition it with the feeling of
Let's
confusion,
see,
that's
let's
when you really
see.
feel that clarity of knowing what to do. Esther's been describing her greatest discomfort recently has been her own split energy, not being able to decide what to do about something. That's a really uncomfortable place to be. And what she's beginning
Oh,
to
no
discover
problem,
more
no
and more is a
worries.
clarity
I
there. That's the
appreciate you
second part of your
too.
question.
You're
We're going to talk
awesome. I
about
thank
that
you
in a
for
little more
coming
detail
tonight.
soon.
I hope I could
So
help
here's
you
this
real
first
good with
order
what
of
you're
business,
doing
which
and
is
what you was
emotion,
wanting
to
to
let you know
know.
you're in alignment.
You're
And then
very gorgeous, by the
thoughts
way.
begin
Just
coming.
taking
But
it
then the
one
next
day at a
thing,
time. I'm
the
trying to work on
animals
loving
begin to
myself.
interact
That is
with you
the
in a more
key.
emphatic
Love
way.
yourself,
And
and
then
that way
humans
when
begin to interact
he
with you
do
in a more
comes,
emphatic way. Things
you're
begin
going
to
to be able to
manifest
love
in your
him, and he's
experience,
going to
like
love the way that he
cars in your
loves you.
garage
And
and
that's why I
so
said
forth.
he's been
But the
watching and he
first
see the way you love
signs
yourself and
of
your
your
kids.
alignment really,
But yes,
after a
Joanne,
while, become
I
the
can
ones
see
that you're
somebody's
reaching for most.
looking
Because as you
back
come
at
to
the
know, there
past,
are a limit to how
and
many
I can see
things
that
you want to
person is
carry
looking
around and
too.
keep clean and
So to
ensure.
answer
And
your
it is
question,
I
not
had to
why you
manifest a desire to have more desires. I ran out of things to want.
I'm kind of
well,
nervous.
there's no ending to how that continues
I think
to
so.
unfold.
I
Once you
think
get
that
on
they're
this
looking to
roll
come
of
back
things,
into
you'll begin to find yourself
your
just
life. Because look how
salivating
this
over
person is looking
pondering
back.
something
And you
you've
asked
never
me, was
pondered in
they
this way
looking
before.
to
And
come
the
back
feeling of
into your
clarity
life?
then
And this
comes
is
in.
what
Now, you've tied
they're
two very
doing.
significant things together.
They're going to
So
come
here's where
back.
we're wanting to go
But
with this. That's what
they're
you were
kind of like
asking
at a
about earlier.
distance right now,
So you were
trying to
source
stack
energy
up
before
some
you came into this body and blah blah blah. You all know
income
that. You've heard it from
and
us so many
stuff,
times.
you
You know
know.
what you don't want. You know what you do want.
I don't know why I'm getting that.
And as you launch
They've
those
been holding
rockets
on
of
tight
desire,
to like
this non-physical
finances and
part of you expands.
financialness. But
Now, at any time,
they do want to
you can
come
come
back.
into
They
alignment
just
with
trying
that
to make
expansion.
sure
But when you
when
have
they do
what
come
you are
back,
calling your
it's going to
death
be
experience,
correct. You know how
we
they say come
disrespectfully call it
correct,
your croaking experience.
don't come
There is
back,
no
or
death.
come
And
correct,
you
or however
emerge
that
in the
saying goes.
fullness of all that you
They're
are.
going to come back,
That's a
but it's
really
going to be
exhilarating
make sure they
experience
can
because you
provide.
leave behind
There is a little
all
distance
the
right now, and I
resistance
know
of
you
any
probably
kind.
can
You
feel
come
that
into your
distance.
clarity and into the fullness
but
of
the
who you
sun
are.
is shining
And for
behind,
those of
so
you
once
who
that
are
sun
remaining here
rises,
in physical
you're
form,
going to be
once
able to
you've
see the
known
clear
someone who's
outlook
made their
about the whole
transition,
situation.
you have
Just
access
don't doubt
to
it,
them
you know what I'm
in their
saying?
highest
If you
flying
really
state
want
of
something to
being,
manifest, you
provided
got to
that you
really
are on that high
put your
flying
mind
disc as
Depends on
to
what
well.
you're
it
going to see.
first and
Well,
believe it,
you
and
can
it'll
see the
happen and
thought forms
manifest.
of them. In other
I'm going to
words,
read
because
what the
as they were
book
banging
says for
around
some
in their
extra
physical form,
insight for the
they
Six
set
of
forth all
Cups.
kinds of things that they were. In other words,
Let's see
you could be on a lower
what it's
flying disc
saying.
and pick up on a thought form of someone who has made their transition,
See,
but
it
you're not
represents the
picking up
past.
on who
Once
they now
past, their
are.
memories
Because
of
without
simple
exception,
pleasure.
when they
Also,
reemerge
a
in the
new
non-physical, they
environment, because
become
it's
that
showing
pure,
that you have been
positive
thinking
energy.
about,
But the thing that we really
someone
want you to
returning that
understand is
has
that
been in your
they are
past.
still, in
Memories of
fact,
people from the
more
past may
interested in what was
reappear.
going
You
on
may
in
make
their
a
life
move of some
experience once
type,
they
hoping
make
to
their transition.
recapture
In
the
other words,
past.
we really want to ask
Enjoy
you
the
all, what
simple
do you all think
things.
we're thinking
So what it
about?
is you gotta
If
enjoy.
you
I
are
thought
going,
something was
if
on you,
you
y'all. I'm
are the
sorry.
leading edge of
I
thought,
saw
and you are,
something.
and your life
Excuse me.
experience is causing
But you
you
gotta
to be on the front
just
edge of
reflect on the
expansion,
good that you guys
and you
had
keep
together,
asking for
and
more
that's what's
things
gonna
that
be
have
able
never
to
been asked
rekindle
for
it. Don't think
before, and
about
we
what
ride
went
the ride of
wrong
what
or
you're
how it
asking
went
for.
wrong.
Doesn't it seem logical to you that we would have some interest in the
But they're definitely coming
manifestation,
back
the
into your
realization, the
life.
demonstration that comes forth to you? We're in on all of
Definitely.
that. And
That's
so
what the
a
cards are
large
saying.
amount of the
So
clarity
that is
that
what
you
it
are all
is. That's
coming
why
to
you've been having
is
a lot
because
of
of the
memories and
momentum
thinking
that we
about them
have
so much,
garnered
because
from the momentum
they've
that
been
we
using like
are as
telepathic thoughts
cooperative
thinking
components
about
to the
you
things
too.
that you care about.
Don't be
But it is
surprised if you
only
don't get a
when you
phone
have
call.
achieved and
But it has been a
consistently
little distance.
maintained that
But
high
that
flying
distance is
vibration
gonna
that you begin to have constant,
go
steady,
away.
secure, meaning you can find
So
it
keep
anytime you
hope.
want to, access
Keep
to
thinking
that
positive.
non-physical thought. That
It's
is
gonna
what's
work
going on
out.
with
The access
Esther
point.
as she is receiving
Let them know you're
Abraham.
thinking
In other
about
words,
them. If you
she's
just want
been
to send
tuned
them
in
a
for so
text or
long. She's been
something,
practicing the vibration of us.
that
Many of you
helps.
have too.
Reassurance
And so
always
she can
helps.
instantaneously bring herself in as short a time as she stands there.
That's
Depends
for
on how
sure.
much chattering she's done with you beforehand, but she can bring herself into vibrational alignment with that which we are, so that she literally becomes the furthest most extension of the knowing that we hold. And what's interesting to us is what you are all focusing about, you see. So this non-physicalness is always integrated with the physical. It always has been, and it always will be. You have
Y'all have any
legions,
more
you have
questions? I
gestalts,
don't
you
mind
have
answering
more
them.
non-physical
I hope I haven't lost
energy backing
anybody.
you up, consciousness backing you up, and every part of it.
Why do you feel like you're in a
identify
weird
if you were
space?
refined enough in your vibrational awareness to know that. We're just saying to you, there are a
Joanne.
lot of us interested in what you've got going on, but you've got to
Thank
be
you.
in the
I appreciate you
frequency
too,
to have
still
awareness of
standing.
it. Now, whether you're in that frequency or
I
not does not
appreciate
mean
you
that we
too.
cannot be in
I
awareness
like your
of
name,
you.
by the way,
But the
still
benefit
standing.
to
You know, it
you
makes me
is
think
all
of the
about what
Monica
you're
song.
doing
I'm still
vibrationally.
standing.
It's a really wonderful thing when you are
That's
able
the
to
key, to
open
keep
your
still
eyes and actually
standing.
witness someone who's made their
No
transition
matter
and
what.
is in that high flying place,
I
presenting
like
a
that
block
name.
of thought to you that you were able to interpret vibrationally and visually. That's a wonderful thing.
But that was, it just seemed to me that was a
Are you still
separate
there, Joanne?
focal point of consciousness. I think that's where I'm having a hard time delineating between, like, when you say like a consciousness gestalt versus a
Hold on one
non-physical
second.
versus
Well, go back to your
physical.
subject. Think about focus. You offered some very good words in the beginning here about perception and perceiver and all of that. So what you are perceiving is what's tuning or toning your vibrational frequency. And you can't perceive anything outside. In other words, it's really sort of a fruitless conversation for you to be discussing anything that is not your perception.
I was just enjoying
because
me
no matter how many words we offer, we
Honey
cannot bring
bunches
you
of
to any
oat
real
cereal. I don't
clarity.
really eat
It's your
cereal, but those
perception.
are
So
delicious.
everything that we do and all
Try
the
to eat
books we
healthy
write
as
and
I
all the
can,
conversations we have, it's all about helping you to find a way to tune
I did some
yourself
good
vibrationally
exercising
so
today,
that you
so I
can
can
then
keep
have that
my
perception.
bones strong.
That's what's beginning to happen to Esther, because now that Jerry has made his transition, she is so interested in what he thinks and how he
I don't
feels
know what
about
happened
the
to
different things that
Joanne,
she's
but she
involved in.
disappeared.
And
I
what
hope
she's
I answered her
discovering
question.
is that
Maybe I gave her her
ability to
nightcap.
interact, as you said, with him is even greater now than it was before, because for two reasons. One is because of his transition, she has tuned herself more powerfully than she ever did before. Her desire to interact with him and understand what he is understanding is keener. And so she spent much more time focus wheeling, much more time reaching for the high flying disc. She cares very much about being on that high flying disc.
Yes,
We
you
said
gotta
to
stay
you
on the
earlier that you have
high-flying
17 seconds before law of attraction brings another thought. And so if Esther finds herself on a thought thought that is not one that she wants to accentuate and add momentum to. She's catching herself early on and actually counting down 16, 15, 14. She said to a friend the other day, I have something to tell you and I only have 17 seconds to do it in, so listen up. In other words, she's really aware. She wants to maintain that frequency. And now that she's doing a better job of maintaining that frequency, she has more common, more chronic access to that broader perspective. The masters of your environment have always been about that. Napoleon Hill, in his book Think and Grow Rich, which is really worth reading again now that you are understanding vibration, was talking about the mastermind. And Esther is beginning to discover that if she can get someone to dialogue with her, and they can stay on this high-flying disc, which means they stay mostly in generalities, not talking about any details of life experience, but mostly in generalities. What happens is, as they stay there for a little while, both of them become tuned to one another's mind. It's like another mind that they've tapped into is now thinking with them, and the satisfying feeling of thinking with that broader perspective. You have never been individuals. You just thought that you were. And the reason that you thought that you were is because so many people were trying to control you because they needed your compliance with what they thought was a good way for you to live so that they can feel good, that they set forth all kinds of rules and laws, and in the process of doing that, and in your process of trying to please them and align with what they wanted rather than tune to your high frequency, you lost your connection in many cases. And so most people are sort of just banging around mere shadows of the consciousness that you really are. But when you begin tuning to the consciousness that you really are, you begin discovering that you've never been singular, ever, 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 ever. And anytime you felt alone or lonely or lost or confused, it was only because you pitched yourself off from the frequency of the mastermind. Not a mind that is masterfully trying to control you, but this consciousness that knows all things. And when you tune into that, you know what road to take. You know where to put your foot down. You know how to uplift this person when you open your mouth. You know what route to take in a place that you don't even really understand. You find impulses within you that are just pleasurable, pleasurable, pleasurable. You can never have an unhappy journey to a happy destination. If you're having a miserable time along the way, when you get to wherever you're going, it's going to be miserable when you get there. That's a sign, you see. But when you're feeling good, when it's fun, when you're clear-minded, when you're feeling frisky, when you want to go, when you're just full of yourself, tuned in, tapped in, turned on, when you feel like that, that's when you know you've managed to find that frequency, and now that broader perspective is helping you out. Jerry and Esther live in San Antonio. Jerry lived there. Now he's everywhere. For a few years ago, they were out in the part of the city where they are living in a little place known as Bernie. And they went to the post office and they couldn't get in. The roads were flooded. The Cibolo Creek had overrun its banks. It had been raining, and they hightailed it home because the roads were becoming more and more flooded. And they stayed on enough high ground until they got to high ground where they live. And they called a friend of theirs who lives in San Antonio. They have 1,000 acres. They have cattle and machinery and all kinds of farm equipment in San Antonio. And they said the Cibolo is outside of its banks. It's just flooding the post office in Bernie. And their friend said, thank you very much. And they were able to open some gates and move some cattle and get some equipment out of some fields. And they called back a few hours later as the Cibolo overran their pastures. And they said, it's so nice to have a friend upstream.
It is.
And we want you to understand the friend that you've got in that high-flying place who knows everything that you are and all that you want and what the path of least resistance to help you get from where you want to be to where it is. And we want you to understand that the path of least resistance isn't the shortest path, it's the most joyful path. It's the most interesting path. It's the most fun path. It's the path.
By definition, because that's what you're created to tune
Ricky,
into.
your path
I mean,
now.
it might not be the same for me as someone else. I guess what you're saying is that the emotions that you feel that give you that feeling are your connection to non-physical. And does that also mean that non-physical has its basis in emotion?
Well,
And that's why you are
that's
able
a
to.
nice way to say that, because We don't speak words, we offer vibration. And vibration of alignment really does produce emotion. And that's why that which is source is, by your standards, the emotion of love. But few humans have the capacity yet, because you haven't practiced it consistently enough. And consistent is the word that we want to keep introducing
Consistent.
here.
You have to be
Because
consistent.
momentum equals consistency. And focus equals momentum equals consistency equals state of being.
That's the word of the day. Isn't
And
it?
so
Yeah, momentum.
but you must focus yourself into that momentum. And the way you feel is the way you know how you're focused. So often, it's interesting. You'll be in a conversation and someone will say something that will trigger something in your mind. And so as they're talking about a city or an experience or a place. And so often you engage on that level. But when you begin tuning to your frequency, caring about how you feel, paying attention to what you do and what you think, paying attention to the people that you even think about. Esther's finding herself selectively sifting everything about past experience, because there are minefields everywhere. In other words, there are things that she can think about that will take her off her pipeline disc immediately. And 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, she's counting herself down from that, not wanting to lose her momentum. And so as you begin really caring about how you feel, and you can accomplish that in this environment with all of this majesty around you, with all of this beauty around you, with all of this high-flying energy around you, this is really a good opportunity for you to tune yourself to the frequency of who you really are. In the beginning, as we began playing with you years ago, we said to you that meditation is the way to tune yourself, or to make yourself aware of your tuning. Because when you quiet your mind, you stop thought. And when you stop thought, you stop resistance. And when you stop resistance, your vibration just naturally rises. And so as your vibration is rising, 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 and you begin to feel what that feels like, then you become unwilling to allow thoughts to get going that diminish that feeling of well-being. Esther said to a friend the other day, I'm afraid I'm becoming a vibrational snob, because there are so many things that I don't want to talk about anymore, because I know what talking about that leads to. And so as you care infinitely and ultimately,
or we would say properly,
about how you
forehead.
feel, it all sorts itself out in a really wonderful way. Now, there's something left undone there. What is it?
I think it's still that connection between the sense of I am, the sense of the consciousness that you
You're
are.
not ever going to feel like I am. You're not ever going to feel that unless you are.
True
In
that.
other words, it really is that high-flying disc and maintaining it consistently. It's a state of being. Because what a perfect word. Because when you are in that frequency, then you are vibrationally aligned with all that is.
I think the harder part is to understand how we ever mistake ourselves for not being it.
Well,
When it's your
it doesn't
basis.
matter, because here's why. You said, I'll go forth and I'll sift and sort, and I'll discover things that I want. And so in the discovery of something that is beyond, in other words, feel how it feels to be completely satisfied. You all think that you want that. Oh, won't it be nice when I have everything that I want? No, you'll really be dead, and there's not that kind of dead. Wouldn't it be nice to have everything that I want?
Yeah.
And what you're really saying, the discord that you're really feeling is, to desire something that I'm not vibrationally up to speed with causes resistance in my vibrational countenance that is uncomfortable. So the key is